test day. The morning was bright and breezy, and the majority of the British touring car contingent had rolled in the evening before to form an encampment at the Croft circuit in North Yorkshire. Some, including BTCC, Honda, Speedworks, Toyota and Laser Tools Racing, with a pair of their Infinity Q50s, had travelled from Knockhill after a test at the Scottish circuit 2 days before. The rest had headed north for the second of 3 official tests organised by the Championship to help bed in and understand the new Cosworth prepared hybrid system to be utilised by all the teams in 2022. "23 cars were in the garages or under awning before the gates opened to the public. 22 drivers were present and correct. News had just been released that the continuing saga of double champion Jason Plato was to continue, but he would treat 2022 as his farewell performance. One last hurrah with BTC. A move that most people had penciled in after his Donington test with the team a week before. 2 Toyota Corollas were ready in the garages next to race control, but only Rory Butcher, remaining at the team for a second year, was to run through the day. It wouldn't be until the morning after that Speedworks would announce that Ricky Collard, like Plato, a move that was considered final in the heads of enthusiasts, was to take the second seat at the team. This season, the official tests have carried extra gravitas thanks to the introduction of the hybrid technology. There have been a number of comments from within the Championship about the kits being manufactured and delivered on time and being ready for the season start. So far in testing though, there have naturally been a few niggles and not every car has ran 100% of the time on the system. But currently, it appears that the goal of having every car being ready to use the system for the season over at Thruxton is a target that is lined up dead centre. Of course, there'll be problems throughout the year. In a championship like the BTCC, it would be naive to surmise that testing replicates racing, considering the rough and tumble character of the category. The lack of knocks and physicality in pre-season sessions cannot prepare machinery 100% for what it will be subjected to. If you're not clued in about hybrid yet, to quickly cover it, it will replace the ballast system that's been used in the Championship for time immemorial. Cars will be given 15 seconds of hybrid electric power to boost their output, but where cars higher in the Championship or performing well in race 1 and 2 were hit with decreasing weight penalty to slow the faster cars down, an incremental reverse restriction of hybrid power pull-up will be imposed instead, meaning the higher you are placed, the less extra power the driver will be granted. Tactically, there will be a new set of parameters. It could, like ballast, be race by race again, with cars that are more penalised climbing the order through race 1 and 2, with the result in race 3 as an aim, but it will also add to in-race strategy, as where and when the extra grunt is used to attack or defend. Cars will have to leave pit lane on their electric motors. Some are far more quiet than others in that stealth mode, and the Toyota I discovered makes the old Submariner adage of run silent, run deep look like shouting and stamping. Working on pit lane will require an extra set of sensors this year. Staying alert will be a must as cars prepare to head to the grid. For the marshals on post at the test, there were instructions to report transgressions where drivers ran off track or wiped out cones. They were meant to be sent to a sin bin if they were naughty and nibbling at the grass. One of the joys of pre-season is that teams often run bare cars. There were 5 black Hondas and a black BMW, 2 white Infinitis, a white Vauxhall, 2 white Toyotas. With a less number of marshals on post than a regular weekend, a fair few cars were able to get away without being slapped down as they were gone before the name and number could be taken. But when not all cars are named and numbered, it can be a challenge. Just before lunch, a situation arose that perturbed 1 or 2 people on pit lane. Dan Camish crawled to a halt just inside the pit entry. A number of cars came into the pits unaware that Camish was just to the right of the tyre barrier on the side that separated the pit lane from the main straight. Only just managing to avoid him at the last second, He was some distance from the 60km/h speed limit line. There were one or two puzzled comments about no red flag being waved. Those comments were compounded when his team moved up to retrieve the car, leaving some members in the blind spot of cars entering at a fair amount of speed. A 10-minute session of practice starts was scheduled just before the 90-minute lunch break, allowing teams and drivers to reacquaint themselves with the process, so sit back and enjoy a bit of those starts being rehearsed. For a quick commercial break. So some of you might be familiar with Motor Racing UK magazine. You might not know, if you're a touring car fan, that we produce a yearly season review hardback A4 book that covers in depth the British Touring Car Championship, the Touring Car Trophy and all the TOCA support series. It's available for £35. There's a softback version for £25. It has hundreds of glorious photos in, a full season review that's in depth, that's about 130 pages, plus driver by driver in the touring cars. There's Touring Car Trophy, British F4, Ginetta Juniors, Ginetta GT4 Super Cup, Mini Challenge UK and Porsche Carrera Cup reviews. If you buy the hardback or the softback A4 version, you will also get for free a 1-year subscription to the digital version of Motor Racing UK. The book is available as digital only or digital with digital subscription, which is £10, and that's 10 40-page magazines across a year in PDF format. Where do I get it from, you ask? Well, that's motorracinguk.com. The link will be down there, so get it bought. As for performance, yes, it's pre-season and it's hard to work out the pecking order, especially where drivers are new to the car, but there was some interesting time set. With the hybrid system being around 50 kilograms, around what a fourth place car would be within 2021 with ballast, the fastest laps at Croft were over half a second up on pole position from last year. Aidan Moffat claimed that with a 1 minute 22.037 seconds in conditions that were a little less breezy and a little warmer than the conditions that this test had. And he claimed that with no ballast. 5 cars in session 1 and 6 cars in session 2 topped that time, and some of those were set by drivers still finding their feet. There were a number of unrepresentative times too, as getting back to the grind, technical gremlins and testing programmes all fed into how the day worked out for the teams present. Some left Croft with questions answered and some left with more puzzles to solve. So a quick and not in depth look at what each team achieved is what follows now. BTCC Racing were present with all 3 cars for Josh Cook, Jade Edwards and Jason Plato. The team were based out of their trucks and awnings, with Park Fermier doubling up as an extended pit lane for some teams, including them. A downer for the day, that was while the team were running the cars, some little twats lifted wallets from Plato and Cook from the race transporter. Let's hope the little turds get their comeuppance. In the morning session, Cook was one of those to dip under the pole of last year. As expected, teams are keeping under wraps what their programme is, what hybrid boost they're using, when they're using it, etc. They were not the first team on track though. In fact, for a while it seemed like they weren't coming out to play at all. Cook emerged 25 minutes after the first green light. After the installation run, he ventured out a further 8 times. Most of the morning was spent running the 122s until the end of his last run, where he placed under 122 3 times. In the afternoon, he came within 500ths of pole from 2021, and he ran 79 laps through the day. Jade Edwards posted a top time of 122.991 with 66 laps in the bag. New boy Plato, running in a Civic Type R, built by the outfit of his old rival Matt Neal, Dynamics that is, but with M Sport rather than a Neil Brown unit, he laid down 57 laps, posting a best of 122.406. Cook already looks on the ball. Known as a Thruxton specialist, he has previous at Croft, especially with the double win he had with the BTCC Honda at the circuit in 2020. Sicily were also operating with the Owen and Park Fermier combo. New boy George Campbell put 95 laps throughout the day on the board. His early runs were in the 23-24 bracket. There were a few dirt-kicking moments, but he was keen and committed, looking like he's relatively at ease with the rear-wheel driven car, thanks in part to his Porsche days. He whacked away at the timesheets through the morning. The first 2 times he ventured out on the circuit were for extended runs, 12 and 18 laps, seemingly race distance attempts. Only one of the laps in that segment dipped under the 123. Race time's definitely there, but in the afternoon it was very different. There was more long runs, but his fastest time of the day was a 1 minute 21.981, below pole from last year, and it came on the 4th lap of a run just after 4 p.m. At Morgan, or Moan, due to some missing letters from the name on the left rear window of his car, put in 90 laps, with the best times of 22.2 and 22.1 in the sessions. It was workmanlike and quiet from the Morgan. In fact, his matte black car machine almost seemed to be in stealth mode as he racked up the laps across the day. Both cars are already looking way ahead of where they were in pre-season 2021. Dynamics had both machines there after announcing that the 3 TBLs were 2 again, and like BTC, they were all black. Thanks guys, both teams. It doesn't make a photographer's job easy when you've got thousands of shots of 5 black Hondas to sort through. Robo was on point in the morning and Flash on the afternoon. There was a disparity in laps completed between the two, with Rowbottom spent an extended period in the garage in the second session. Both dipped under the magic pole number of last season, In the morning, both drivers put in 25 laps. In the afternoon, Robo put another 23 up there, but Shedden topped 50. Rowbottom was faster before lunch and Shedden on the afternoon. As expected, it was an unflustered performance from drivers and team. The only puzzle was a couple of slow getaways during the 10-minute start line bonanza. There were 1 or 2 months last year where that did cost the team some points. Accelerate once again around the 4 cars. Tom Ingram and Jack Butel have returned. Tom Chilton and Dan Lloyd joined them. It was a mixed bag with Ingram going third fastest in the morning and Butel being routed to the bottom of the timesheets in both sessions, with only around a race and a half distance run all day for him. There was plenty of garage time for the number 96 and plenty of chance to take in the culinary delights of the burger fan, if so desired. I didn't see him there, but you don't know. The thing about the unit this year is the choice they've made to develop their Hyundai engine with Swindon. It has a sweet tone, and this early in the cycle it's looking solid. The field overall was quite tight, with only 2 cars not getting under 123, one of those being Butel. Chilton ran a 22.8 in the morning with 32 laps running and 22.4 in the afternoon, again with 32 laps on the board. Lloyd ran ahead of that a monster 48 laps before the break, with a 22.3 as his best time, and 41 laps in the afternoon, with a top time a tenth better, and he was solid. Ingram had 66 laps up the wheel through the day. It's a time of gathering data, but the project is already looking strong. The team hard outfit was down in numbers. The Cooper contingent didn't make the long trip north with their 3 confirmed drivers, and only 2 from the Infinity side of the garage were present. Rick Parfitt Jr. didn't test, but 2021 pole sitter and race one winner Aidan Moffat and 18-year-old rookie Dexter Patterson were present to run 2 of the cars on a rather eventful day for the pair. Patterson made his first appearance an hour and a half after the green flag, and Moffat took another half hour to hit the track on top of that, with much activity around the machines in the garage in that time period. The car looked leery compared to last season. I'm sure that out of Hawthorne was even managing 2 wheels without hitting the curb to launch it. Okay, that's a slight exaggeration. 23 and 13 laps for rookie and veteran before lunch, and some entanglements with trackside furniture. After the complaints last year from drivers about tyre stacks, Moffat reminded everybody by taking the front right off the car at the chicane, whereas Patterson escaped a clang with the tyre stack exiting the very fast Chin Parkesses. The message from Moffat to Patterson being, I said do as I say, not as I do. The pair were on the ball in the afternoon, being 0.6 and 0.7 off the pace, and I have to say any worries about the competence of Patterson after his move from GB3 can be put to bed. There's a lot to pick up in the races this year, but he certainly has the speed and skill in the car to pull some surprises off. How focused are things in the motor-base garages? See what I did there? Focused. I'll get me caught. The Apex side of Ollie Jackson and Sam Osborne hasn't had the love in the off-season that the other part of the outfit has received, but we'll get to that in a minute. Jackson has moved from one half of the team to the other. After being in the MB colours last year, he's now paired with Osborne in what is, let's be honest, almost seen as the B team. Last year was a tough one for Jackson, but remember in 2020 he took 2 wins in these cars, so it is there. The pair was separated by 0.063, the second in session 1, the faster morning period. Both were in the 122.7 bracket with 37 and 41 laps completed. Both were 1.2 seconds off the ultimate pace, but in the afternoon, Ollie moved to within 0.7 seconds after running 29 laps. Osborne was in and out of the pits. He lapped Croft 36 times, but was 2 seconds off the top time. In the other focused pit, the Napa side of the motor-base setup, the super team were in action. You have to clap your hands to this setup. No matter what happens this year, to put a deal together to bring that sponsor to your team, a signed champion driver and a solid championship challenger, it's a huge statement of intent. Most people are expecting either an intra-team competition that will be amicable and enjoyable, or will delve down to levels of Senna versus Prost with nothing in between. Whatever, this has box office written all over it, and if liveries were the test of the title tilt for the crown, it will be on its way at the motor-base headquarters right now. Camish and Sutton are both versatile, put them in a car and they'll challenge. Sutton was 7th and 6th fastest in the 2 sessions, Camish 5th and 2nd. The lap totals were 78 and 75. There were hiccups. Cars come to a halt as mentioned earlier, but the team grafted and on those occasions got the machines back on track quickly. A solid day for a team who had their pieces of the puzzle in place early. When I said some teams were answering questions and not creating new ones, the Napa sponsored team were just being that. There was only one Power Max test at the track, with fan favourite Michael Craze at the wheel. New sign in Ash Hand was announced 2 days after the test, so it was a one-car rollout, another Ornan and Park Fermier team. The car did spend some time away from the circuit with some setup work being carried out, but it appeared to be more of a getting to know you exercise. There were 80 laps on the day, but none of them got below 1 minute 23 at any point, but obviously that will come. Speedworks, announcing Ricky Collard the day after the test, had 2 cars and 1 driver present, 67 laps for Rory Butcher, who'd been at Croft just a couple of weeks earlier as a coach and development driver with the Fiesta. It was a quiet day in the middle of the timesheets. It was mainly 5-lap runs with a couple of 6. Speedworks built the main test track for Cosworth, but favouritism isn't creeping in here. The team still have to mine much of the data themselves, which they continued on top of their Knockhill appearance before the Croft test. West Surrey Racing occupied the 3 garages that they inhabited at Croft last season for the later than usual in the year race meeting that the circuit hosted. Colin Turkington was tended to in the garage closest to the pit exit and led the charge as the team, combined, collected information from a grand total of 218 laps from all 3 drivers. In that total, there was only 10 laps in the afternoon from newcomer Jake Hill, thanks to a few gremlins popping up. Jake looks in the zone even when in the garage, and he knows that the opportunity to crack the BTCC elite is there for the taking this season, and he appears to be extremely concentrated on that. His more and best of 121.969 was 4th fastest, but still slower than Turkington, whose 121.497 was the fastest of the day. Hill knows what he's up against, with the 4-time champ being 2 doors down. This season will do them both good, I imagine. Hill chasing the veteran, Turkington being pushed by the young whippersnapper. On the face of it, a 2-car battle with Stephen Jelly as the 3rd wheel. Last year it didn't go to plan for Jelly. His late season chance to win at Brands must have hung over him all winter. And to point out that it's a 3-car team, he put in his "Oi, I'm here," with the fastest afternoon time of 121.669. If Hill or Turkington want to be top dog, they might have a surprise on their hands if Jelly can translate that kind of performance to points and wins this year. Next up, the entire field will pop up at Thruxton for the media day. Couple liveries will lift things. A little good for us working trackside, and it'll be interesting to see if the same kind of pecking order remains and whether many of the gremlins will rear their nasty little heads again as the championship continues preparation for what is a sea change season.